Well, hello, welcome back to GearHeadGeeks, where we are starting a series called Tools and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. And in each of these installments, we are going to be covering things from the very basics to what the pro mechanic should have, what kind of equipment they should have, uh, what what skills they'll be needing to develop to be able to do that. But for this video, we're just going to be going through the basics, which means very simple maintenance so that you don't have to take your motorcycle to the shop and spend a whole bunch of money just to have your oil changed or your chain lube. These are things that you can do yourself, save yourself a bunch of money and a bunch of time. And so, starting with the basics, there's a couple things that really make a lot of sense to be able to do. The first thing is to be able to adjust your chain. You need to keep it adjusted and lubed. Two reasons for that is chain life and sprocket life. If you lube your chain, say every 400 to 500 miles, your chain and sprockets will last 10 times longer than if you didn't lube them at all. It makes a huge difference. The sprockets will wear dramatically if you don't keep them lubed properly. The chain will seem like it stretches, but what's happening is it's not really stretching. It's the rollers are wearing internally because of no lube, and as they start to wear, the chain starts developing slack. So that being said, there's a whole subject on that. The idea here is just to be able to adjust your chain and lube it. And then the other thing that you need to be able to do is change your oil. Now, why don't you just have somebody do it? Well, here's the deal. To have somebody change your oil, you need to take it somewhere, and that usually entails an appointment of some form. Then you've got to get a ride back home or whatever you're going to do, because most of the time you can't wait. Then once it's done, then you have to get a ride there, and then you ride it back. And then thirdly, it's expensive. It costs a lot of money, and when you can just do it for just a few dollars and a few tools. The first time that you change your oil, it'll pay for the tools that you need. And the only thing that's tough is getting rid of the oil. And there's several ways to do that, so we'll talk about those. So anyway, those are the two things that you need to be able to do, and we will go into figuring out what tools are necessary for doing that, which is just basic tools that you need, and then we'll talk about the basic tools you do need to get these jobs done. So let's talk about some of the things that you're going to need to be able to maintain your motorcycle in the very beginning. Many people are beyond this, but let's just start from scratch. You need a few basic tools. Some of the tools that you need, depending on the motorcycle you have, come in a toolkit. There's always enough in there to be able to adjust the chain and do a few basic maintenance items, but let's just say you don't have any of those. So what do you need? Well, let's just say the first thing you need is a set of wrenches, and we're not going to go into what brand or whatever. There are literally dozens of really good tools out there that are just fine to do the jobs that you need. You can go to Amazon, you can go to Harbor Freight, you can go pretty much online and find whatever you need. But for the sake of this conversation, what you should do is get yourself a set of wrenches. We'll start with wrenches that go from 8 millimeter to 19 millimeter. That is the basic set of tools that you need. Now, there's a bunch of wrenches in between that you probably would never use. You know, basically your list would be 8, 10, 12, 13, 14, 17, and 19. If you just wanted to get those wrenches, you could get those and pretty much cover almost everything. The one things that those wrenches don't cover are like your axle nut if you're going to be adjusting your chain. And that varies from motorcycle to motorcycle. So in the toolkit, there's usually something to be able to loosen up your axle nut. In case you don't, then you have to measure and find out what size wrench you're going to need or socket that you're going to need to be able to loosen your axle nut so you can adjust the chain. And that is something that can be done with, you know, just something you can measure with. A pair of vernier calipers, we'll talk about those in a little bit. But for the most part, you just need the wrenches, I said, and then a set of sockets and ratchets. And what you would really want here would be a set of 3/8 sockets, which 3/8 means when you look at the ends of the socket here, it's 3/8. And there are different sizes. The most popular sizes are 1/4 inch, 3/8, 1/2 inch, and out of the motorcycle realm, that is all you would ever have to think about. A 1/4 inch would look, it has a very small drive on it. That's 1/4 inch. And then there's the 1/2 inch, which has a much larger drive on it. Of course, there's ratchets that go along with that. This is a 3/8 ratchet. It's not, you know, this is your basic size. 3/8 is the size that you can use for almost everything on this motorcycle, except for maybe some of the bigger sockets that you might be using on sprocket nuts and things like that. But for the most part, 3/8 will take you through it. So you would need a set of 8 millimeter through 19, same size as your wrench, and a ratchet. Just a 3/8 ratchet. There's plenty of different brands out there. There's some really good ones out there. I mean, you're not looking for the very best tool. This is not something you're making your living with. You just want something that isn't going to fall apart on you. And so a decent ratchet, but there's so many good ones out there that the really cheap junky ones, you know, they might be the $2 ratchets. Those are the ones you want to stay away from, you know. But if you spend $10, $12 on a ratchet, you can get something that's fairly decent. This one here is a snap-on, and it's probably $100, but that's at the other end of the scale. So a set of sockets, a set of wrenches, and a ratchet get you some basic tools. The next thing you need is a set of Allen wrenches. And Allen wrenches can come in these particular sets like this. You can get them, and this one ranges from 1.5 millimeter to 10 millimeter, and the whole sets are relatively inexpensive. If you can get some with like a wobble end on it, those are okay. You don't need to, but a set of Allen wrenches, and this is big 10 millimeter, and they look like this, and then they have the smaller ones that are just way down size. But basically a set of these, and they're inexpensive. You can get them anywhere. Harbor Freight has them. This particular set is a Craftsman set. There's all sorts of different tools, but this will get you by and pretty much take care of almost everything you have on your motorcycle. And you might need some screwdrivers. You know, a number 2 Phillips is the most common. Those will work on, especially if you have an older bike, carburetors and things like that. But there's still plenty of number 2 Phillips on your motorcycle. There's many different brands out there. If you have a particular brand that you like or something like that, get those. There are plenty of good ones out there. But just a number 2 and a number 3 is another screwdriver, especially if you have older bikes. Number 3 is used a lot. So to change oil, obviously you need something to drain the oil into. So we have a couple of pans here. This is a metal pan, and it's fairly low profile. So if your bike is real low, this thing holds a lot. It'll hold about 6-7 quarts. Then we have a plastic pan here. It has a pour spout on it, which makes it a little easier to pour oil back out. They also have a pan that's kind of self-contained. I have one around here somewhere. I don't normally use that too much, but it's self-contained, and you drain the oil into it, and you can seal it up, and then you can return it to the recycler, and you can just pour it out there and then just use that pan over and over again. And that does make it a fairly easy way to go. If you use a regular drain pan, what I usually do is I buy oil in the gallon jugs, and if your bike uses 4 quarts, then you're in good shape. But once the jug is empty, I just I drain the oil back into the jug, and then I can take it and recycle it. So to adjust a chain, there are many types of different chain adjusters, but for the most part, the idea here is to get the wheel straight and get the chain in its right adjustment. So let's take a look at this old KZ400 here. Okay, basically to adjust the chain on it, you need to loosen this and this. So in a regular toolkit, there would be something to be able to loosen this and this. And if you look real closely here, let's see if I can get in there where you can see there's little marks. And those little marks, and this is a chain adjuster here. And what you want to do is when you're done, you want your chain to have about this much slack. If you look, you can see this chain's adjusted just about perfect. It gets about 1 inch up and down, which is close. And what you do is you line up the marks on both sides of the wheel. So you count the number of marks there is, and this was on about 3, and this was close to exactly the 4th mark. So you just count your marks, go to the other side, get them even, and once they're even, then you can tighten these back down. Once everything is tight, then you snug these also, and that's this type of adjustment. Here is another example of that. This is on an old Yamaha YL1, and again, it's got the same type of thing. It's just this nut, and then there's marks along here, and that gets you your chain adjustment. And this one's just about 1 inch. And then we have something like an H2, and the way you adjust this, there's a big spanner that goes in here, and you loosen up these 2 bolts with your Allen wrench, and then you turn this. Now, in the H2 under the seat, there's a spanner wrench that fits on there, and you turn that, and it will get the chain to be in its proper adjustment. And again, you look here, I lube this chain every 500 miles, and since I put it on, it's got about 10,000 miles on it, and I have not had to adjust it once because I take very good care of this chain. I use chain wax on it, and it seems to work fairly well. And here is a different type of adjuster, just for reference. This is off my street tracker, and basically what this is it has this eccentric here, And when you loosen up the axle, you take these and you turn them. And what you really are trying to do is just get the chain to run straight. And normally you just have to kind of eyeball your way through here and get the chain to line up properly. And if you look, it's a little hard to show you because I can't get the angle just right, but basically the chain is lined up perfectly with the sprocket. The wheel is lined up so it's not moving to one side or the other. These are a little bit hard to adjust, but they do work well. And as you can see, I've got a few types here of different types of chain lube. Chain wax, some chain lube, some chain guard, chain saver. But to be honest with you, this is the one I use, the chain wax. It is a really good product. I do use it often, which is about every 400 or 500 miles on my motorcycle, but it does not fling off. It does not make a mess. It is, you put it on, it stays, and it lubricates extremely well. It is a really good product. And to change oil, if you look here, let's see if I can get my camera in there. Right here, we're pointing at a drain plug, and it takes an Allen wrench, and you just pull that, and that drains it. And back way inside here, and you have to remove this cover, but there is an oil filter, and I'll show you what one looks like. It's just hiding out in there. And on the concourse, it is back there, and you can access it from here. It does require a tool, and you can they tell you to tighten them by hand or you torque them down, but you know, getting them on and off can be a little tough, and there is a tool to do that with. And here I have, this is an oil filter wrench, which you can buy on Amazon. They are pretty common. I believe I got this one at an auto parts store. And here's another one that's kind of a vice grip type of deal to hang on to, especially if you have a really tough one. This has got really heavy teeth in it, and it'll grab onto that oil filter to get it off fairly quickly. Then you have these types, and this is for a 3/8 ratchet, and you can just put this over the top of the oil filter, and it's just got little serrations in it, and you can buy a whole kit of these for like $10. They're not, you know, and there's different sizes, so you just get yourself a kit, and then all the different sizes will be in there. And you can also use these if there's a torque specification. Well, you can use these to tighten them up. Torquing an oil filter is not the most required thing in the world. So these are the tools that you need to do your basic maintenance. Change your oil, adjust your chain, and fill your tires. Now, to adjust your chain, you need different tools. Sometimes you need to get a socket that might be the right size, or a wrench that might be the right size, and how do you determine that? Well, there is a way. You can get one of these. It's called a vernier caliper, and there's just literally dozens and dozens of digital ones out here that are extremely accurate, and they're very inexpensive. I mean, I found these on sales for as little as $10. You know, but 20 bucks is probably about the right amount. But what's nice about these, it will allow you to measure, and I don't know if you can see, but basically it's just got a little display on it, and you can go in and measure a nut, a bolt, whatever it's going to be, and be able to come up with the right size so that you can get the right tool or do what you need to do. These are very handy to have around. It's a very good tool to have to, I mean, anything that you need. Sometimes you just need to know the size of something, and it's in US and metric, so these are really handy. And there's one more thing that we need to talk about, and that's tire pressure. Tire pressures are important to your motorcycle. They help your tires so they don't wear out too quickly. It also helps in the handling. If they're underinflated, you get this heavy handling. If they're overinflated, you'll get your traction won't be correct. Your contact patch will be too small. So the recommended tire pressure from the manufacturer is what you want to use. The number on the side of the tire, that's a max pressure inflation. That means you can't go over that. It's not what you're supposed to run in a tire. The manufacturer tells you what your tire pressure should be. So the problem is it's really simple to check your tire pressure and get a tire gauge and stick it on there and you'll come up with the right pressure. But how do you fill it? Well, the easy way to fill it is just to go on ahead and get one of these tire pressure gizmos. You can go on ahead and let me turn this on. And you go on ahead, you set the pressure to it, you set it in there, you start it up, and it'll fill your tire to the pressure that you need, and you're all set. In many cases that you can just go out, you can get one on Amazon, you can get them on, I'm sure Harbor Freight probably has them. Most of them work just fine. Yeah, do you need to be super accurate? If you're within a pound, who cares? It's fine. So that's one good way to do it, especially if you don't have a compressor or something like that. So, this way you're not having to go down to a gas station somewhere and try and fill up your tires. And you've got the thing and they just work extremely well. So that's something to consider. So that's the end of our first episode of tools and the art of motorcycle maintenance. It's a very simplistic start. Just, changing your oil, that you need a pan, how to get rid of it. A few tools to be able to adjust your chain. No real knowledge required to do so. Getting a chain to adjust is relatively simple. So anyway, we're going to be making more, and it's going to become more and more advanced as we move along and doing the different types of things and the types of tools that you use and why you should get certain types of tools and then why you should just go on ahead and just do different things. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time here on GearHeadGeeks.